Hey everybody, and welcome to the Microsoft Minute presented by EchoStor. As always, my name is Steve Caprio, and I'm joined by my trusty sidekick here, Chuck Salvo. And with much anticipation, I'm sure, based on the fact we've teased it for a while, we finally got a guest on the program here. We've brought on our CTO, Matt Hoeg. I'll let him do a quick intro of himself. I think it's a good first guest because he's going to do a bit of an overview of how our Microsoft team here works with all the different other pillars inside of EchoStor and the focus areas. So Matt, take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve. So Matt Hoeg, pleasure to be on this webinar. I've been here with EchoStor for about 14 years. Much of that time I've been focused on the consulting side, working with customers to leverage technology to solve complex business challenges. A lot of that time has been focused in the data center space specifically, especially if we look at the initial 5 or so years prior to the accelerated cloud adoption. But I've spent my entire career in the IT space. It's been a lot of fun. There's constant changes, which helps create that fun. So here with EchoStor, we've been helping customers solve these complex business challenges for the past 20 years. We're using transformative technologies and aligning ourselves with some of the best manufacturers in the world to help build those solutions. So we've been working with customers to empower transformation. We focus on their business strategy, identifying what sort of outcomes they're looking to achieve as part of that business strategy, then identify the appropriate technologies that fit within that particular strategy. So making sure that we have the right performance, the right security outcome, the right data services, all of those types of things within that technology strategy. Understand the application strategy. So what are the users actually going to be accessing in order to achieve that desired outcome? What sort of data are they going to be creating or accessing as part of that application? And then when we identify what that strategy is, figuring out what the appropriate data strategy is to support it. All data sets are different. Some require higher performance than others. Some of them require multi-levels of performance. We try to make sure that we're putting the right information in the right place at the right time to support that workload. And that could also mean longer-term retention as part of that data strategy.
Talking through that, how does that kind of align with the way we've structured what we end up calling pillars here? Do you want to cover some of that just to give the audience an idea of the way we think about bringing those solutions to customers?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's a broad set of technologies that I just spoke about. And so in order to put the right focus on those technologies, we've broken out the ownership or the responsibilities really into 6 specific pillars. So modern workplace, which is really where Microsoft lives and both of you live. And really this is around enhancing user productivity through a variety of services, primarily focused on that Microsoft suite, although others may be involved, and really helping customers leverage these tools to democratize data, provide more insight, better understand their Microsoft contracts in order to leverage all of the services that might be included in that contract that perhaps they may not be aware of. And then the second one is really around digital workflows. So this is where we're helping customers improve on things like their service management strategy, process automation, asset management. At this point, we live in the age of now with smartphones and things like that. Everything is at our fingertips. And a lot of the consumers and employees expect the same type of experience in the workplace. And so we help our customers define streamlined processes to accomplish all of those repeatable tasks. And so the employees can get access to whatever it is that they're trying to get access to much faster. Then the third pillar is really focused on security. So building a robust cyber resiliency strategy at this point using a zero trust framework is a major focus area for a lot of folks. The rise in ransomware attacks has been exponential over the years, and they're getting very sophisticated, especially with the rise in AI. Customers or bad actors' ability to really infiltrate an organization or socially engineer access to an individual that could then infiltrate an organization without even knowing it is happening very frequently. And so from a security perspective, we focus on a variety of different areas. So we have the network security, perimeter security, and things like that. and then getting into microsegmentation and network security inside the data center itself or inside the four walls of an organization. And that way, if an attack does happen, we really reduce the overall attack surface. From a cloud perspective, helping to improve the overall posture of that cloud infrastructure. So the cloud security posture management within. There's a lot of end users that are mobile at this point, a lot of edge cases. We want to make sure that we're securing user access everywhere, no matter where they may be accessing proprietary data from an organization. We talk about people infiltrating end users. Perhaps they may be impersonating someone. And so user access management is critical. And so we've been focused on a variety of areas in that security space.
Yeah, I think too I think that security one is really an area where we've tied in nicely with a lot of the solutions that we partner with there, but also the team, and talking through the Microsoft and Entra ID being the backplane of identity. You talked about the user access and how is that governed? How is that secured? Microsoft does a great job with some of their tool sets, but there's other best of breed products out there that we partner with that really strengthen that security footprint and also solve some challenges or holes that Microsoft does have in their product set now. So I think of the pillars that we have, we work tightly with all of them, but that security one, there is a ton of overlap in what we talk about on a day-to-day basis with our customers.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a lot of cross-pillar discussions that take place. And so there's a lot of collaboration within EchoStor in order to have those discussions. We do talk about each of these being a focus area. We have individuals within each of those pillars to focus on certain technologies, but there's constant communication between the teams in order to accomplish so. You mentioned, or we look at security, I didn't even mention endpoint security and things like that. So I know we have Defender and those types of technologies, but then there are others out there that may fill some of the gaps that are left open. So there's a ton of different things. And you're right. I mean, we use our portfolio to really fill those gaps of the Microsoft services that may be available, augment some of those things, and really, again, help customers provide a better experience to their end users.
Yeah, we got 3 more pillars now, right? So I think network would probably be the next one, Matt.
Yeah, exactly. So at this point, communication and access to applications and the associated data is key. Whether we're talking advanced routing between data centers, multi-cloud connectivity, or just enabling communication at the edge, it's critical that data and those applications are accessible at all times. And so networking is a major focus area of ours. There's been a significant rise in performance associated with these networking. If we look at gigabit Ethernet, that's up to 800 gigabits per second at this point, and very rapidly introducing technologies that are even faster than that. So networking and networking performance is definitely a focus area of ours. But again, it comes down to making sure that we have the right speeds based on what the application profile is. So we're not necessarily spending, a ton of money on something like an 800 gigabit per second network when perhaps a 25 gigabit per second network is fine. So really doing things like QoS is another area where we don't want an application to really consume all of the network bandwidth that may be available to a consolidated set of infrastructure. And so we do some things like QoS to help provide the right services to the right applications at the right time.
Then that's the cross-cloud stuff too. Microsoft Azure, obviously AWS, Google, all the different public clouds and how the hybrid data center works. And I know that's probably the next pillar you're going to jump into, but still a lot of talking points there between the team on this side, on the Microsoft focused areas, and what is happening at that network, at least on the edge, and connectivity to the different clouds and things is what we're focused on with those guys.
We used to couple network and security together in the same pillar over the years, but we identified that it really made a ton of sense to separate the two, although there's still a ton of overlap.
Yeah.
Especially if you start looking at firewalls and you talk about building a VPC within public cloud infrastructure. But you want to make sure that VPC is secure, but we also need to enable the communications between everything. So there's a ton of overlap between those two.
Yeah.
But we wanted to make sure we have individuals focused on certain areas within.
Yeah.
Then if we get into next gen data center, this is really what our focus area has been as a company for the last 20 years. And this is an area where I spent a big chunk of my career. The way applications are developed and services are used has evolved substantially over the years through really the hyperscaler offerings. And again, I mentioned before with digital workflows, the age of now, consumers and end users and those developing new applications have instant access to services through cloud infrastructure. That's how they're learning to develop new applications as they attend school or attend other certification programs and things like that. They learn through likely some sort of cloud infrastructure. And so we're trying to help customers enable those services also on premises. Obviously, a big piece of a next-gen data center is a hybrid cloud infrastructure. In order to do that, we need to make sure everything is software defined throughout the entire stack, whether we're deploying on premises or in the cloud. Another area to that is really around data protection. So data being the lifeblood of every organization, we need to make sure that data is protected, secure, and recoverable at all times. We talk about security and the rise in ransomware threats and cyber attacks and things like that. And so this is where security and next-gen data center really have a ton of overlap around the protection of that data. There's a need for longer-term retention and things like that as well. And so we want to make sure that we're putting that data in the right location and making sure that data is immutable. So it cannot be modified by any type of ransomware attack, especially if they infiltrate some sort of the management layer, that we don't want them to start making changes to any of the retention policies and removing some of those backups. So making sure that's immutable is a critical step. And it's really a fundamental piece of building that cyber resiliency strategy. And then as we start bringing that data through some sort of backup infrastructure, we start gaining more intelligence about that data. So we can understand that data profile. We can understand the contents of that data through indexing. And then it allows us to if a ransomware attack does happen, we can very rapidly scan and do analysis on that data set to identify where that ransomware threat may exist and very quickly remove it. And that way we're reducing the amount of data that could be at risk or at loss by doing those types of analysis.
I think that data protection space is, at least is how it relates to the stuff that we talk about all day, is not just the backup, retention, and preservation of data, but even into that DSPM or data security posture management space of, what is your data estate across both on premises, in the cloud, in your Microsoft 365 tenant. What types of data do you have? How are you protecting certain, sensitive types of data? That comes into the Purview feature set of Microsoft, but the partners that we have work in that space are starting to evolve those DSPM, and I think data protection as an umbrella kind of covers that as well. So there's, again, like a lot of cross-pillar collaboration there about what tool is the right tool for the customer based on the needs that they have across that. Definitely.
We have a lot of customers that build infrastructure within Azure. And so we have connectivity between the compute side of the Azure infrastructure, but then also the storage side of Azure infrastructure, and making sure that we're perhaps archiving out to Azure Blob Storage or some other colder storage on that same platform in order to reduce the overall cost. And again, make sure that data is sitting in the right tier at the right time and helping customers optimize cost and performance. And then finally,
the last one, right?
Yeah, the sixth one, really. So artificial intelligence. You can't go a day without hearing some sort of news on artificial intelligence and the rapid advancements in this particular space. The amount of compute, network, storage required to support these types of workloads is astounding. And we're working with customers to ensure that they have the appropriate architecture, platforms, tools in place to support these types of new initiatives. And it's imperative they have the appropriate data services in place in order to achieve those desired outcomes. Really, artificial intelligence is really about the analysis of data. So it's large data lakes, data warehouses that they're building models against, and then scanning that data, cleaning that data, making sure it's in the right format to run their model against and then infer against in order to gain that intelligence. And so that's a big area that we've been focusing on with customers.
Yeah, I think Chuck and I spent at least one or two other sessions talking about some of the AI initiatives from Microsoft, both coming out of Ignite back in November and just more generally what's going on with Copilot. And it's constantly changing on this end, and what Microsoft's rolling out every day is changing the way that we would approach it. But what's your sense of customers and where they land on, I got to build my own AI capable infrastructure versus I got to spin something up that's flexible in the cloud, or I got to buy a service that, like an agent that somebody's already designed that's purpose built? I think some of that's probably still up in the air, but like where do you think people are falling at this point in that journey?
I think a lot of the large organizations are they are well down the road of understanding artificial intelligence and what their desired outcome is going to be. I think some of the smaller organizations they've started to build infrastructure, perhaps smaller infrastructure, to support these types of things. Perhaps they're looking at the lower end NVIDIA GPUs that they can build some of these services on, provide them to the line of business so they can figure out what it is that they're looking to do. But I imagine down the road, there will be more common off-the-shelf type artificial intelligence applications and models and things like that that customers can deploy on this infrastructure, present their data to it. Perhaps they have to clean some of that data in order to present itself in the format that's required for that particular model. But then they're going to use that, and that's how they'll gain their intelligence. There's a lot of engineering effort required for it. And so when we reach that stage of common off-the-shelf application and more rapid adoption, I think that's when they'll see increased usage there.
Matt, do you think you'll see a lot of hybrid setups? One of the designs that we're looking at is basically on-premise GPUs to keep the cost down. It's a lot cheaper for us to run GPUs on-prem than running Azure in the cloud, but there's definitely services in the cloud that we want to take advantage of, right? So for us, I think being able to bring in the entire team of network security, modern data center, and workplace to pull together a full solution across all those pillars and make all that work is really amazing. But I think that hybrid strategy is something that I think a lot of organizations that I've seen are definitely embracing. Like the cloud only thing just seems to be very small organizations, startups, things like that. But the hybrid is really the way to get the most value out of the entire infrastructure, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. A lot of data exists on premises. A lot of new applications have been developed in the cloud, and so that data now exists there. And so building a common data fabric where we can consolidate all of that data into a specific location, perhaps in Azure, for example, leverage the Azure services against that data, and then achieve whatever the desired outcome is happening a lot more frequently. And some of the manufacturers on the traditional data center space that they grew up on-premises infrastructure have developed new services and capabilities that are more tightly integrated with cloud, but also obviously integrate with the on-premises infrastructure in order to provide that data consolidation, but still allow you to use those cloud native type services to accomplish what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, right? There is those just cloud native services that you can't run them on premise, but again, terabytes and terabytes of data on premise that you're not going to shift into the cloud. So being able to get both of those is huge.
Yeah, and final piece here, just talking through, covered security as a separate pillar, but AI, people have security concerns there about the data and where it's stored and what's being used and how it's being manipulated. Talk a little bit about your experience so far, talking to customers about securing any sort of AI product or that they've built or otherwise have used. Is it a mixture of the network and other security like CNAPP and other tools, or is it really walling it off from any other potential leakage? What have you seen out there from the talks with the customers?
Yeah, we've seen a variety of different ways that customers handle those types of scenarios. You're right, though. So a lot of customers are blocking the more commercialized ChatGPT, OpenAI access to their employees because they found that employees were now uploading proprietary confidential information into these tools in order to more quickly scan those tools. But then all of that data now sits within that tool, that data set, and it was fed through the model.
Yeah.
Of that.
Trained on it. No.
It was trained on it, exactly. So we do see customers that are now isolating that. They're trying to build their own services and leverage their own data. That also gives them an advantage over their competition, because now if they have better data, then they can provide a better outcome to their customer.
Yeah.
So we do see a lot of that from a security perspective. Again, data is the lifeblood. If your competition it has insight into your data because of just poor practices from employees and uploading things like that, you lose your competitive edge, and it can be very impactful to the bottom line and to the business overall.
Yeah, I think if anything, people should be aware of that notion, right? Of once you put it in the prompt, even if it doesn't quote unquote get back into the model, it's being logged somewhere. And DeepSeek just got hacked. All these prompts, all this information in these databases. So yeah, the minute you throw it in that prompt, you don't know where it's going to go. It's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I think lots to talk about here. We'd probably go forever, but this was a great intro to the way our Microsoft team works with the rest of EchoStore, what the rest of EchoStore is up to. We're moving fast through a lot of different things, keeping our eyes on stuff, and we got Matt leading the charge here as CTO. So just want to thank Matt for jumping on today. As always, you guys can hit us up in the email after if there's any suggestions or topic areas you want us to cover. And yeah, thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, really appreciate the time today. It was great to chat with you both.